Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Trade the Chain. We are Monty-less today. He has off. No idea who gave him that day off. But today is March 26th, and it is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Today, we spoke yesterday about a lot of stuff happening with Bitcoin, and we've already had the Deribit expiries happen on contracts. So we're going to talk about that today because CJ from marketrebellion.com is feeling more bullish than he's felt in a long, long time. That being said, I know you guys are going to hate it, but we also have to touch on VGX, up 19% nearly in the last 24 hours. We're going to go to the charts and see what the naysayers didn't see with that price action. So without further ado, Ryan, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. Absolutely none of this is investment advice and should not be construed as such. You don't listen to me anyway, so why am I saying this? Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global 24/7 community of traders of all ages, all skill types, and all abilities, all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help beat the market. If you're not yet a member of Trade the Chain and you want to trade like a crypto insider, check out TradeTheChain.com for a 14-day trial.
One question we had in the community the other day regarding Trade the Chain was, how do you guys deal, or do you deal, in multiple countries and multiple languages? And that's, part of the beauty of that sentiment analysis is that it's getting up thousands of sources, not just in English, but of course, since crypto, this is a global market, it's hitting the global audience. Pretty bullish today. I mean, of course, we've got some in the neutral category on the 1 hour sentiments, but I'm sure that will be likely changing here in the short term. But over to marketrebellion.com/crypto. This is Monty and myself and our community at Market Rebellion. With us, you get exclusive access to our trade ideas on a weekly basis, our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform, a trading education curriculum, and an elite community of traders all throughout the world, and much more. If you're serious about trading crypto, this is the service that gives you everything you need all in one place. You can start your first month trial for just $1 at marketrebellion.com/go. We appreciate that. Marketrebellion.com/crypto. Misspoke there for a minute. But yeah, community's growing. But more importantly, before we go into the big boards, you guys doing good? I mean, you look a little stressed out.
We're getting by.
Okay.
In case anybody didn't notice, there's palm trees behind us. We're doing good.
One thing I wanted to mention, CJ, you were talking about dealing in different languages. The Trade the Chain, the AI and the machine learning and all the processing that we do, we take a lot of these alerts from news sources that are in Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and other languages, and we're able to translate them into English. So you're getting information that you might not necessarily get if you weren't a native speaker of one of those languages. So that's just one more added benefit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Why don't we get into the big boards then here, starting with Bitcoin. And so let's take a look at these Keltner channels as I get out the drawing tool. But look at this. Bang, bang, and then would you know it, we're getting that same increase. Bounce off the bottom Keltner channel, off of support as well. We're seeing that bullish momentum really continue and test up here on that top band. That is exactly what you want to see if we're looking at this chart, because the bulls are really stepping in on these levels. We've seen them do it before, and it's incredibly promising to see them doing it again today. Now, as you can see, we've kind of struggled a little bit on these past run-ups to get back up above that middle Keltner channel. But once we do, it's usually pretty smooth sailing. And so when you look, to me, there is a turning point candle in each one of those trends. For the first trend, that candle was there. For the second one, it was there. And now for the third, we had this red 4 go up as a green engulfing candle 2 days ago, but we weren't able to close with sufficient momentum, right? Right now, We still got about 7 hours left in our current engulfing candle. If we can finish this one very similar to these previous two, meaning we're having a bullish engulfing candle at the bottom of a downtrend, that's important. And you want to pay attention to that because it means that we're likely seeing a significant reversal here. Now on to the fundamentals. Over to our friend here, Wolf of All Streets, another very big Voyager fan. 6 billion in Bitcoin options expired today. That's a record. And like Alex mentioned earlier, the volume's coming from Deribit, it's coming from Asia. And so we've already seen the majority of these options have already expired. Typically, we see a suppression of price going into these options expiration. And then afterwards, we see increases. And as Scott's noted up here, we've seen an 80%, a 99%, and a 44% gain following these options expirations. Historically, April's been the most bullish month. Now, I don't know how big you guys are on seasonality. I do think there's some merit to it. It's not the only thing I trade on. But with all of these aspects coming together, and then what Monty talked about yesterday with the liquid supply being more hodled than we've ever had it before, I'm inclined to believe that if we close today on a bullish engulfing candle, we're likely going to go to new highs, and that target level that we've noted is $75,000. I think Ryan mentioned yesterday that that's lining up as well with some of these Bitcoin options targets. Is that correct?
That would appear to be the case. And I think, another bullish move or another bullish influence on the market today, New Zealand pension manager just disclosed that they put 5% of the fund's assets, public pension, into Bitcoin. Since October, they've been gradually buying in. So it's not a huge fund, right? I think it's like, 46 billion. But for a pension anyway, that's not
another narrative.
It's another narrative, right? And if you start having pension funds in the likes of New Zealand, which is a sophisticated, mature financial market, if not a massive one, right? It's only a matter of time before other small to mid-tier financial markets you start seeing this, and then it kind of works its way up the food chain. So I can see why people might be bullish off of some news like that.
Also, CJ, don't forget, we have Q1 earning reports coming out mid next month, towards the end of next month, and we're going to see all those hypotheticals that everybody was guessing on who bought it for, say, treasuries and stuff. They're all going to be revealed come these earning reports, so it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of individuals bought the dip, mainly 54K, but not just focusing on the bullish case. I want to examine the bearish case as well. So I wanted to go back to Bitcoin and speak to another narrative that you guys were discussing. And that narrative...
It's funny how CJ is playing both Monty and CJ today. So now...
We have this narrative, or I guess we had this narrative around the dollar currency index, the DXY. This is the dollar strength in relation to, not only assets, but all of the other currencies that it is related and compared to. And as you can see, when we had all that stimulus money coming in, we really had a bearish decline in the dollar, and a lot of people got into that trade. They hedged with things like Bitcoin, stocks, and other risk on assets. But now we've gotten to a point in which we're hitting a bottom here on the DXY. And so does this mean that Bitcoin can't rally or resume the bull market? No, absolutely not. It just means that narrative around inflation and the US dollar, that trade in the Forex market has just gotten a little overcrowded now to the point where we're seeing a bullish turnover and the trend is ripping. So like I said, it may not be the largest factor in the bearish case, but when we have an increasing dollar value, it's going to be naturally hard for Bitcoin to rally in spite of that. I think if we zoom out a little bit and look at this more in depth, we can see that a large portion of Bitcoin's rally up to 50K occurred when the dollar was falling. I'm even curious to see what happened in 2017. So yeah, you can see this again. In 2017, throughout our entire bull market, Bitcoin was going parabolic. Meanwhile, the dollar currency index was falling drastically. So that's something you may want to keep your eye on. You know, we're seeing a little bit of a rounding bottom there. But I still think Bitcoin's going to do well. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here to the bearish case and the bullish case. The other thing that we have going parabolic is the TNX, this 10-year treasury note yield. And so, you know, can Bitcoin rally in spite of an increasing treasury note? Yes, it can, but I think it's going to be very difficult if this continues to go up. If we see kind of a further back test and a bearish kind of fallout, that would be very bullish for the equity market and for Bitcoin. We're just not seeing that yet. So that narrative between the DXY and the TNX, you know, you can see the bearish side and you can talk about those fundamentals. I think if, you know, the 50K level doesn't hold and we lose that bottom Keltner channel, we could see 48K. But based on, you know, on-chain volume and on-chain metrics, it looks much more likely that the bullish follow through in the next couple of weeks.
Well, one of the things, and I know that Ryan has a great counterpoint to the bullish story, but one of the things, just going off your treasury chart just now, is, you know, folks, one of the reasons why is that yield goes up, that it becomes less bullish for the Bitcoin case, is because what is everybody putting the narrative at when it comes to Bitcoin? It's store of value, right? So the more rewards you're going to get for a very, you know, for a treasury yield, the more people are going to want that security and less volatility over, you know, let's say Bitcoin. So I agree with you on that, CJ, that yield needs to, you know, flatten out at least.
Also, as Alex mentioned, so you brought up the idea that stimulus checks are expected to help rise activity in Bitcoin, deposits, and resulting in people buying Bitcoin. There's an article in CoinDesk from earlier today where the exchanges, all exchanges, Voyager, Steve Ehrlich is on the record talking about this. You have Coinbase declining to comment despite previous comments to this narrative, and you have Kraken all saying that they have seen absolutely no uptick in Bitcoin buying since the stimulus checks have started to be issued, and they're not seeing an increase in deposits for like amounts to the stimulus checks the way they did during the first round of stimulus going out. And in mentioning that, though, it's probably fair to point out that not all the checks have been sent out, but the fact that there hasn't been any at all, like not even a ratio really of note to this point, just it makes me doubt that being a potential for you know, fueling Bitcoin's upside. It's more likely to come from the narrative, the overall narrative of Bitcoin, people buying into that, the sentiment rising, and the momentum carrying it higher as it has in the past.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we might not exactly know, right? I think the point that Monty was making about the stimulus is that a lot of people front ran it. You know, once we saw or had the news that, you know, we were going to get that $1,400 stimulus, I think a lot of people who want to buy crypto and they hear that news, they're not going to wait for the 1,400. They're just going to buy it and knowing that they're going to get that money. And
reimbursing themselves.
Yeah, literally. So that could be a possibility. It could just be a possibility that we're seeing more authentic volume drive this market higher. Yeah, I mean, I am inclined to agree with you, Ryan. It doesn't have to be the driving factor. I think it was much more influential, you know, a few weeks back, especially on the equity market.
Well, one of the things that, you know, people, there's a certain amount of viewers that come here to watch us cover a certain company, and we, once again, cannot not cover it today, and that's going to be Voyager. And before everybody goes, you know, Voyager, we went over, you know, there's a lot of bulls, a lot of bears in the camp over there, and there's people with opinions of negative stuff and how the news and token swap are just not going to do it. And then others saying, you know, that's going to be God's gift to the world. It's going to change the Voyager life forever. But the thing is that, listen, it's up in the last 24 hours, 19%. Okay, I mean, it presented a very bullish price action on the overnight. CJ, can we go through the charts and see what's happening there and try to garner any color on what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Full picture. Ryan, you brought up a good point in terms of how efficient or how reliable is this token efficiency going to be? Because if we look here, we can see that Voyager is onboarding people like nobody's business. When you look at the caliber of apps on the US App Store in the finance category, I mean, like above Robinhood.
That's impressive.
Like this is a very, very like list of big players. The fact that they're ahead of Robinhood, Bank of America, Chase. Think about how many people have a Chase app, and so all of that inclines me to believe that it's only really a matter of time before we see this this transfer into an increase in the price of VGX. I think if you really want to help the token efficiency from Voyager's perspective, you just got to be clear about how you demonstrate the value of VGX. I was looking at the app just recently. At the top, there's always this purple banner that comes up that says, send to a friend, you'll refer to it and you'll get 25 BTC. Maybe have a slider on that or something and swap it out every so often that says, hey, here are the benefits you're going to get if you get VGX. You're going to get more interest. You're going to hold a really promising asset that's onboarding tons of users. So I think if they do that, which, I believe they will over time, VGX is going to be at $10 in no time, especially if Bitcoin can go to like the 75K level, because people are already very bullish about VGX. They know what it is, not like when it was at $1 or even less than that. But looking to the technicals here, a lot similar happening with Bitcoin here. Granted, we didn't have multiple decreases and touch this bottom Keltner channel multiple times. But what I want to point to once again is that green engulfing candle at the bottom of a downtrend. If we get something that can close here above $5 and really, capture that psychological level, I think it's going to be incredibly bullish for VGX and may in fact be a bottom to this bleed out and correction period, because we haven't seen bullish volume or bullish buy pressure come in to VGX like this in quite a while. Another thing I think is probably more important to look at is the performance in relation to Bitcoin. So if we look at the Voyager in comparison to Bitcoin chart here, we can see that we're hitting a very similar kind of bottom right there, kind of bottoming out with that bullish engulfing candle as we rode down this entire Keltner channel. The thing that I really like to see on the daily perspective is the fact that we're, it's not like this thing is just rolling over. Like it is, granted, but it's starting to roll over like this. Here, let me get back to the drawing tool. It's starting to come around. And so we've already had a 50% correction from the top of Bitcoin's performance down to Voyager's performance. So that may be sufficient at our current points. If we go in and make new highs in Bitcoin, I think Voyager token is going to follow suit and be very bullish.
When looking at Voyager's, recovery last night, right? Looking at sentiment scores on the Trade the Chain dashboard are all bullish right now. And that's probably off the back of, 33% give or take rise in tweet volume. And, Pat Ackerman, after watching yesterday's episode, rightly pointed out to me that, the swap, VLP are not in place yet, and that all of his price targets and his modeling and projections are based on those two programs moving into place. So he's planning on following up, I guess, on that. And perhaps, I don't understand the fundamentals behind last night's pop. It doesn't make sense to me. It may have just been the anti-Ryan trade. It's like I say, hey, this is of the community decided, well, we'll show him. Maybe they Wall Street bets to me, right?
Well, we told everybody to do an opposite of what Ryan does. So that is that's the new actionable trade alert.
It's the like the anti-Jim Cramer trade, right? You trade against Jim Cramer, you outperform Jim Cramer. So I think that's that might be the case with me now at this point.
I'm interested in hearing you guys' thoughts on the market and this kind of token efficiency model because, the market, Yeah, I want to hear what you guys think.
I don't know. I think what's happening right now is a lot of people were waiting to see what was happening with Bitcoin. There was a lot of talk about which direction it's going to go in, how that correlates to Voyager. Quite frankly, I don't actually think it is correlating, and it hasn't for a little bit now, a few weeks, because I've seen inverse price action on both Bitcoin and VGX. Going on. And I think what it is, I think it's very community driven. I think there's a lot of people that say, and I happen to side on this camp, and I'm in agreement with you, CJ. You brought it up to me. There's not going to be a lot of value when the token swap happens and the VLP goes in. You're not going to see this big, through the moon price. And I'm a believer of that. I think it's going to create stability, though, and I think you're going to see the big bullish price predictions that Pat has been talking about, Rob, happen when we start getting territorial, authorization.
We'll see how it all gets rolled out. Very exciting.
I think they're going to have to improve some of the incentives in the VLP. I don't think that they're good enough at the lower levels for people to feel comfortable buying in with VGX at the price it is. It's too substantial of an investment compared to where the coin was last year, right? So if you want to provide that stability, you need to further incentivize the lower end of the VLP versus the higher end.
And that's a good point that Ryan makes. The price is taking it so that you have to be, wealthy by, to actually be what they call a Voyager in the category of layers up, earning those rewards. And so now it's priced a lot of people out. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the community governance isn't going to kick in for a year. So that means that if it holds true that our price predictions, whether it's Rob at 30, me at 50, Ryan here at 1,000, just joking, holds true, that's going to make it so astronomical in the short term for people to get that top tier rewards. And they're going to have to wait until this time next year before community governance comes into effect and the community votes to lower those standards to a more palatable level.
I think it's too much of an ask. I genuinely do for a token that doesn't have the adoption rates of some of the bigger projects in the crypto sphere. I think it's too much of an ask for people to basically have to put their assets in a trust almost, where they can't touch it for a year and just have faith that everything works out over a year when everyone talks about how weeks feel like months in crypto. It's just
there's a lot to unpack here.
When CJ says a lot to unpack.
First of all, absolutely. We have to have data on what the average account size is at Voyager. At Robinhood, I think it's around 2K or even less than that. And you're absolutely right. If the average Voyager customer is coming in with less than 2K, they're not going to be wealthy enough to benefit from the platform by owning a portion of VGX. So those levels have to be changed to accommodate, the younger, intro to crypto type millennial investor who's coming into the marketplace in mass. That's what we saw on Coinbase in 2017. I think we'll continue to see it again. We already are seeing it. That's the one thing that we both agree on. The second thing that I want to hear about you guys from, and this just is totally up in the air at the current point, is you talk about community governance. What does that even mean? Who decides, okay, just so you have a ton of VGX, now you can choose how Voyager uses it in their company? That doesn't make any sense to me. Who's going to say what the benefits are if Voyager can't provide the interest because they're not part of the governance? It doesn't really.
No, I agree with you. And I think it's a difficult road ahead. And I mean difficult road ahead because not just from what you pointed out, which could go sideways really quickly, but also because, as we spoke about in yesterday's episode, it doesn't provide any shareholder value directly, right? So it's not going to be some priority concentration on their list in order to figure it out. I think from when it comes to the value and what my prediction is of Voyager is it's going to rely heavily on opening up in Canada, New York, and the EU. It's going to rely heavily on having a broader distribution once this token swap happens, right? So, get it listed at some of the exchanges that, probably the low-hanging fruit, the ones that they use for liquidity partners, so more people have access to it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind seeing Voyager token on Coinbase or any other competing exchange. It just matters with the volume that you get. It doesn't matter if you only have it trading on Voyager. Plus, it just becomes an advertisement for everyone who are trading on those exchanges,
Also, interest, incentives earned for people who are out of the country right now, right? So there's a lot of European viewers that put comments in or hit us out, and they're like, "Hey guys, I do love VGX. I own a ton of VGX, but I don't get rewarded for it, being in Belgium or Germany or something like that." So I don't know how exactly they could solve that, but maybe. But then it becomes staking pools are, quasi gray area security, because you're making yield on it, just like yield farming and stuff.
Voyager wallet.
Oh my God, we're just going to solve the problem right now.
If you put it in the Voyager wallet, you can earn interest within the Voyager wallet if you use that, if they were to roll something out like that.
That's not a bad idea, to be honest with you. But now, I'll play the other side of that. You roll out a Voyager wallet that lets anybody in the world get rewards. Now you're getting into the custody game, right? And one thing Voyager isn't into is the custody game. And I think that's played a particular part in their success by having those third-party integration. So
not necessarily though. Like the way the eToro wallet works is that you can hold your assets on eToro in the eToro app, right? And eToro has a custody. They white labeled their custody with another provider. And the eToro wallet, you're self-custodying all the assets that you trade on eToro within the eToro wallet app. So if you had the Voyager app set up in a similar fashion where people self-custody their own assets, but there's a way to register it so that way you can take advantage of the rewards, I think that would actually be it would be an elegant solution to an inelegant.
They gotta find a partner, right? And there's a couple of different exchanges that have their exchange wallets and they have their own.
Did we lose Alex? I think we lost him. Yeah.
So what's that?
I lost you for a second there. No, I was going to say MetaMask. Like, think about StormX out, sneaking in MetaMask wallet, things of that sort.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, I mean, I think there's a solution to be had there. I unfortunately don't think it's on their priority list. I'm just going to come back to that.
That's fine.
All right. I think we Voyagered out everybody for today's episode. Obviously, we love all the colorful comments that everybody puts.
I love my fans.
Oh, Jesus.
Please keep telling me how you feel.
Keep disagreeing with Ryan in the comments.
I'm not upset when Voyager goes up. I hold Voyager. I'm not the bear you think I am. I just don't. There's nothing wrong with being contrarian and seeing a different point of view in something. I think that's something crypto especially sorely lacks. You can't just be cheering number go up all the time.
And if you get a chance, come to tax haven, Puerto Rico, where there's a lot of crypto people here.
There are.
No, you're right. But like, take a show like Bill Maher or something,
Yeah.
Not only liberals on that show. There are Republicans. There needs to be another side of the conversation so that there's, an active debate and a conversation so that we're not just all agreeing with one another. So with that said, thank you, everyone. Alex, I'll leave it with your final closing.
No, definitely. Thank you, everybody. I'm actually going to try and kick Ryan's butt in pool.
It's not going to happen.
But guys, Friday. Thank you, everybody, for watching this again. Love us, hate us. Tell us how you feel in the comments. And full disclosure, all three of us on this show own bags of Voyager. We are fans of Voyager. Mm-hmm. That being said, have a great weekend. Hang on to your handlebars. We'll see you Monday. And I don't think it'll be from Puerto Rico.
Nope, not this guy.
Take it easy, everybody.
Bye, everyone.